This one really blew my mind. From Own Scheme. Important message from a group of anti-diet dietitians. You never have to eat fruits and vegetables if you don't want to. Diet culture will trick you into trying to simplify health down to nutrients, but it's not that simple. Cheddar Gorgeous. Scurvy is just a natural response to your honoring your hunger and actually nourishing your body. Mag Street Pie. Don't be scurvy phobic. This one I actually thought was a little bit funny, brought to us by Let the Band Play. My BMI is 42. The answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. Coincidence? Nothing is coincidence. Kangaroo replies, a marathon is 42 kilometers. Coincidence? No. Start training. Curious Chemicals made their own meme. It uses the Skinner format. Could I be tracking something incorrectly? No, it's the doctors, scientists, and the very laws of physics as we know them that are wrong. Mrs. Beaver brings us, in order to prevent eating disorders, we must make it safe to be fat. Doctor something or another. Xion. I'm sure your diabetes will be very amenable to such stellar arguments. Dean Venture brings us, on the left of this infographic it says, what you think will make you feel better. Oh my god, my jeans are too tight. I need to fix this. I need to lose weight. What'll actually make you feel better? Every time I try to lose weight, I end up right back here. I'm going to buy new jeans that fit me. Jewish Space Medbeds replies, once again, all your problems will magically disappear if you consume. Except, no they won't. Larger pants won't make your knees hurt less under all that extra weight. They won't normalize your blood and triglyceride levels and blood pressure, and they won't stop you from huffing and puffing as you cross the Walmart parking lot. And perhaps worst of all, they won't stop you from having to buy even larger pants a few months later. Dama Noodles brings us, anyone kind of effed up with the new obsession with buff chicks, like thin, muscular, female-presenting identifying people? First off, I think it's ableist since not everyone is physically able to work out. Second, I think it's classist since many of us can't afford gym memberships. And it's fat-phobic because they're comparing worth and health to body size. Again, I'm not shocked. Like, for example, I'm a fat person and I can easily lift 200 pounds leg press. Honey, I leg press 280 pounds daily. I gotta pause on that last one. When you do a leg press, your knees get very close to your chest. It is not at all like just standing up from your bed. And I've seen some obese people really struggle at standing up and have to use their arms to help them. On a leg press, you're not allowed to use your arms to help. Mag Street Pie replies, it is ableist to live when so many people are dead. How about that? Dean Venture brings us, diet culture, where eating food when you have a craving is called emotional eating. But eating as little as possible and feeling miserable, moody, and hangry because of it isn't considered emotional at all. Rad Femme replies, none of this makes sense. Emotional eating is eating when you are sad, mad, upset. It's not eating something you crave. Lots of people do that, just about everyone. And eating as little as possible is disordered. It's a mental health issue. So what the heck are they talking about? Ms. Beaver brings us one that really fights against all observations in reality. Contrary to popular belief, being fat has absolutely nothing at all to do with modern food conveniences and abundance. Being fat is a natural part of human diversity and is mainly genetic. There is nothing wrong with being fat. Bodies are not engines. Thermodynamics does not apply to humans. Our bodies are biochemistry, so eat less, move more is not health advice. It's a useless, unscientific, harmful phrase of diet culture and fatmesia. And in really small print it said, you are blessed to be bigger. And conveniences, as wonderful for living and helpful as they are, has nothing to do with the existence of fat people. Fat people throughout history, and even now, myself included, have lived through starvation and physical exertion for lifetimes, and have remained fat because guess what? Bodies are not based on thermodynamics. Supreme Chinchilla, the laws of the universe do not apply to humans. We are so above all that. Helicotermer, so the human body is a source of free energy, in essence a perpetual motion machine? Now it makes sense why in the Matrix they used humans as fuel and batteries. Legal Knowledge brings us an ad which seems a little bit amoral. Diets don't work long term. Weight loss surgery does. And then they give a link to their bariatric clinic. 10-Minute Breakdown replies, I don't know, but in my opinion, advertising a dangerous surgery and presenting it as the only option is very unethical. Leading meal brings us this. Somebody at TikTok said, "Does your surgeon have a weight requirement? Mine won't even see me for consultation until I'm under a certain BMI." Somebody, a sane person, replies, "Doesn't it have something to do with the higher your BMI is, you have higher chances of passing away on the table?" And the highest voted reply to that says, "BMI is only used for calculating how much anesthesia to use, and with modern tech, there's no reason BMI alone would be a deciding factor for surgery." That had the most hearts, which just goes to show how dumb people are. Someone else, "Stats on complications are less correlated with BMI and more with the fact that doctors are never trained on how to care for fat people." So then I guess it does come down to identity alone. That is unfortunate. It's easier just to obfuscate their fatphobic policies like in a huge packet of paper, like take the money and tell you to diet and exercise. Telling you to diet and exercise is not taking your money. Doing the surgery and then killing you would be taking your money. A desk lamp brings us a conversation they had with a friend from before their weight loss journey. They used to think like this too, but got over it. It's sad that our friend can't be happy for her. "Hey girl." "Hey, what's up?" "Never mind. I saw your story lately about your weight loss and I wanted to ask you some stuff." "Yeah, no problem. Did you have questions about my diet or workouts?" "No, I want to ask you why you're doing that to yourself." Like why you feel the need to not listen to your body. You know you're just going to hurt yourself, girl, and I'm really worried about you. You're just starving yourself and working all day, and you're already hurting your body. You need to stop trying to lose weight because you need to realize that you're not meant to be skinny like that." I appreciate the concern, but I'm eating 1,700 calories a day, which is recommended by my doctor, and I'm making sure not to overdo it. "No, you're literally giving yourself an eating disorder. You're not made to lose weight like this. And I liked you better before you tried being this person. Your body is probably crying. You're not listening. I beg you to seek help." "Thank you for your concern. I'm going to have to end this interaction for my own mental health. If you're not happy about what I'm doing with my body, I'd be happy to block you so you don't have to see." "You're going to kill yourself with that attitude when you're skin and bones and sick. I'll say I told you so." He replies, "The 'I told you so' at the concept of you being deathly sick at the end shows that this isn't out of concern. It's anger. What a cruel thing to say to someone you're supposed to be friends with. I'm really sorry, OP." A desk lamp replies, "I haven't needed an inhaler in months. I don't think I'm the one becoming deathly sick." A desk lamp brings us more of the same conversation. "So I really thought about it, and I want to say it's not your fault you live like this. The world is just getting to you, and that honestly makes me sad because you used to be so pretty, but I know you keep seeing thin people around, and you probably think you need to do it too. So I want to give you some resources to help you because I know mental illness is hard." Listen, I thought we could leave it to our talk earlier, but honestly, to say wanting to be healthy is a mental illness, that's not okay. But you're sick for, I know you're 170 right now, and that's bad for your body. It's supposed to be heavier, and you and me are the same height and stuff, and I'm just fine and healthy. How I am so, I don't know why you think you weren't, to be honest. That's dumb. Just to be clear, there's no punctuation in that sentence. If you can call it a sentence. They continue, "I'm not sick. I don't need my inhaler. Eating has been more manageable. And if I was really sick, don't you think one of the 6 doctors I see every month would catch that?" "No, because your doctors will tell you to lose weight even when it's bad for you. For real, girl. If you just cut it out for like a week, I bet you could fit in my shirts again." "I have been civil with you, but honestly, blank, you need help, not me. I'm 170 now and healthy. You are blank pounds, and no matter what you say, that is so bad for you. Please never say anything like this to anyone else. This isn't concern, this is hatred. I'm sorry, but this is it, I'm blocking you. Do better and be less toxic." Awkwardinator replies, "I see this in places that should know better, like subreddits about my 600-pound life or Amberlyn Reed. Like, they understand it's completely unhealthy for someone to be 500 pounds or something, but they get all defensive when I say someone who's only 300 or 200 pounds at 5'2". People seem to have lost all perception of just what healthy weight is. When I was mentioning that I'm still trying to lose weight, of course I had people get defensive and bring up themselves when I was very explicitly talking about myself. I had one woman tell me I was practically anorexic at 150 pounds and the BMI is racist wrong. First off, let me worry about me. I'm not exactly going to starve to death if I get down to 200 pounds at 5'11". Second, 180 pounds at 5'2" still puts you in the obese category, and if you can look down and see a stomach, you're probably not the outlier you think you are. But this person had to keep going with OP, because it's not about you and your weight loss journey. She has to somehow try and control you, so she can keep being in denial herself. What a jerk. Zaza writes, "This is from a song account I unfollowed at the beginning of the year. The insecurity is off the charts." Okay, here's our question for my fellow fats. How do you feel when someone you follow shares a pattern or RTW garment that doesn't come in your size? Question for fat folks only, please. How do you feel? 10% doesn't bother me. 90% bothers me. What about allyship? 40% not an ally. 60% can still be an ally. Mr. Scurvy replies, "I like Swiss watches, but this watch account I follow only posts German or Japanese watches. They are being exclusionary." But more seriously, these people are posting patterns for free. It's like a hobby. Don't expect them to include every possible size. They're just doing it for fun. When something's free, you either accept what it is, or you just get nothing. Ms. Beaver brings out, "Racism and fat phobia originate from the exact same evil source and at the exact same time in history, and has been used to torture fat people of all races on extremely fat-hating TV shows like Biggest Loser, etc." Wait a second, if it's being used to torture people of all races, it's not exactly racist, is it? That's even-handed hatred. Continuing, "This is why I loathe exercise equipment, because it's inherently violent in nature and nothing to do with health. Treadmills were used to torture enslaved blacks after first being invented to torture prisoners in England." I looked that up. It turns out treadmills are about 4,000 years old, and they were originally used to raise water. I assume because it's easier to just walk on a treadmill than lug water up a well. In Victorian times, people did use treadmills to torture people. That says more about people who lived in Victorian times than it does about the treadmill. They used lots of things to torture people just by making them work even if the work did nothing. So, no, treadmills were not first invented to torture prisoners in England. Kay Berry replies, "I wonder if all those prisoners tortured on treadmills became obese because of starvation mode. Big Ted brings us, "A serving of carrots has 25 calories. A serving of chips has 100 depending on the chip. Calories are energy. Chips are going to get you further." Mag Street Pie, "My question is, who eats one serving of chips?" And chips get you farther? Come on. Maybe farther along your belt until you fall off the edge of it. Vodka Fairy brings us, "This was shared on both FA blogs and feeder blogs. Facts, chubby tummies are cute. It's okay to be fat. You can be fat and healthy. It's okay to eat a lot. You are valid and deserve love. Heart." I'm mostly offended here that they showed Kirby as their spokesperson, because Kirby isn't really fat. He's not human. He's some kind of alien space god or something. You can't use the same rules for him. Hida San-chan replies, "I remember talking to a male nurse who was way into the gym and eating healthy and all that good stuff. We were sort of into each other, and it was going pretty normally until I mentioned I wanted to try going back to the gym and I thought his expertise would help. Apparently dude was into feeding and wanted me to be his, I don't know the word for it, eater. It was so surreal hearing a gym bunny medical practitioner telling me he wanted me to do all this unhealthy stuff so he could, stand at attention." Book Hermit adds a different point of view on that. Kirby, disinformatic. "You want to know what doctors call a morbidly obese patient with perfect blood work? 20. Dean Venture brings us an infographic where they've done the wise choice of putting white text on a light pink background, making it 99% unreadable. When my son is hungry, I don't say, 'Again?' No, you've had enough carbs today. You've already eaten too much, so why do we say these things to ourselves? Anxious Elkenbeast. I have no children, but I have cats. I feed them whenever they want me to, but that's because they, unlike me, know when they've had enough food and stop eating at that point. Admittedly, this is not true of all cats, and if I had chonk-inclined kitties, I would have to restrict them. But as it stands, my cats can eat intuitively. I am not a cat. I cannot. I hate Melvin adds. I've told this story before, but my friend thought he was being smart, leaving the cat food bag on the kitchen floor when he went away for the weekend. Came home to the cat lying in the bag, stomach totally distended, and when he pulled the cat out of the bag, it got mad at him. This was 35 years ago. My friend learned his lesson. The cat survived. If I'm a cat, it's that one. Blackjack brings us. This is a mod for some group somewhere, maybe Facebook. For your information, we just removed a post that had been up for a part of today. A picture of a borderline small fat woman in a yellow crop top who was proud of wearing it for the first time. It came to the mod's attention that the picture was upsetting to the larger folks in the group, as the OP did not read even as a small fat to most of them. In deference to the large, super, and infinifat members of the group, who expressed dismay and hurt at a non-fat pic being featured, the post was removed. There is no ill will toward the post's OP, but this is not a space for her, as we need to keep it a safe space for larger fats. Okra Garden. This always happens in groups. People fight to be perceived as the most victimized, then start pushing out everyone on the lower rungs, claiming they're not affected enough to deserve the same level of attention. I've even seen it in cancer support groups, where people with things like skin cancer or stage 1 breast cancer are told they are selfishly taking space away from the real cancer victims, who want all the sympathy for themselves. Olyenvakam brings us. These are both tweets from the same person, in succession. Medical student here, they really don't know what causes obesity or how weight loss works. Anecdotally, I got sick and gained 25 pounds one year, so I tracked everything I ate with an app. Did high-intensity exercise 3 times a week, couldn't lose weight. Then I got even sicker and lost 50 pounds without even trying. Next tweet. Cats don't get fat by accident. People overfeed them. Not only is it cruel, it exposes them to a variety of expensive health problems that shortens their lives. Good grab. So humans are magical unicorns and don't follow the laws of thermodynamics, but cats do? If anything, I would think that a cat would break the laws of thermodynamics because they knocked it off a ledge. Mrs. Beaver brings us. Dieting is harmful for your health. Here's a short list. Increased risk of heart disease, long-lasting negative impacts on metabolism, risk for osteoporosis, stress fractures and broken bones, loss of muscular strength and endurance, decreased oxygen utilization, thinning hair, loss of coordination, dehydration and electrolyte imbalances, fainting, weakness, slowed heart rates. Slowed heart rates? That's a healthy thing for most people. Slower reaction times, and a lesser ability to concentrate, stress and anxiety about food and weight, feelings of depression, low self-esteem, increased stress, and increased risk of developing an eating disorder, not to mention that dieting is a lie. It doesn't work, it won't make you thin, and it's harmful for your health. Know the facts, heart. Just a fat girl trying to make a living without working for the man. Check out my bio for coaching on intuitive eating and radical self-acceptance for folks in fat bodies, and cool skirts for rad fat folks on Etsy. It's important when you're selling people something to tell them that if they don't do what you say, they'll be very, very sick. Anyway, Moral Tack replies to them. These are symptoms of being trapped under a building after an earthquake, not cutting back on second breakfast. A Taste of Blueberries brings us. Consider how your fitnessy profile might make fat people feel. When you're on the apps, I don't know how to describe this to thin people, but fat people have a sixth sense for detecting fatphobic dates. A person I have a hunch is going to be fatphobic will usually be obsessed with fitness on their profile. If all their pics are flexing or gym pics, or they list their weight and height on their profile, they're letting you know that that's important to them. This isn't to say you can't be proud of your body and your profile, just that it can send an unintended message to some people. Kismet Mutiny replies, I don't remember where I came across it, But a while ago I saw a skit with a couple of fat women talking about how they wouldn't want to date a fit man because he wouldn't want to go with them for a Taco Bell run at 2 a.m. after a night of heavy drinking. It was actually pretty funny, and I could appreciate that they appreciated that fit people have a different lifestyle. It's not for them, and that's fine. Given how many fat activists are triggered by things like weighing food, tracking macros, or doing intentional exercise, I don't really see how they could be around someone who works at maintaining their body to any degree. They might want to date someone who looks like that as a flex, but I think when it came down to it, they would find themselves completely incompatible with their lifestyle and worldview. I think about this whenever haes complained about gym bros not wanting to date fat women. So at the end of the day, if they're turned off by the gym pics, the message worked as intended. I don't see the issue with this. Ishimura Huntress brings us, thin people with EDs are privileged too. Electric Boogaloo. Mike, I do feel for skinny people with EDs. I know what it's like to have dysmorphia and mental illness, but I'm just sick of the way skinny people are prioritized in ED discussions. And I'm sick of the rampant fat phobia in their spaces. So many skinny people think that because they have an ED, their fat phobia doesn't count, or that they're equal victims in fat phobia, but they're not really, because at the end of the day, some of us will still be praised and prioritized, and considered the epitome of beauty, and still have all the fashion shops and trends on earth geared toward them, while the rest get stomped on, discarded, and forgotten. Fat people are always an afterthought. Just showing a fat person basic human decency is seen as an act of charity. These ED'd skinny people do not care when we are suffering, because our body shape means we deserve it. We are not equal in this fight. Death by Dexter replies, they are prioritized because they are at a very high risk of dying. It's a violent disease, and no one thinks it's a good thing to go through this. Anorexia is the most lethal psychiatric disorder, carrying a 6-fold increased risk of death, 4 times the death risk from major depression. Cat pooed in my shoe brings us. Prefacing this post by saying I 1000% believe fat is not a negative word, and I think fatness is amazing. But delving deeper into fat politics has made me realize that despite self-perception or not being skinny, the BMI scale cannot decide someone's fatness. That said, I'm not fat. I've been harming the community by labeling myself that just because my BMI technically places me with obesity. I fit into mediums and larges. I can fit into the average airplane seat easily, at most. I could label myself chubby or plus-sized, but walking around. Individual Radio replies, how did we get here? We're saying we're not fat because we can fit into seats? That's not a measure of anything. Before this century, it would be an impressive feat to not fit in an airplane seat. Love Dove Bunny brings us, shrinking your body isn't your life's purpose. Society will tell you it is, but listen to me, darling. Fat is where it's at. Paris Hilton's femur. People would always tell me I'm just curvier and fat is where it's at when I was bordering obese as a child, and that led to pre-diabetes at 15 that I've now thankfully gotten rid of by losing weight. Not a fun experience, though. Garlic Fan Club. When an obese person says they don't eat much, excluding rare exception, how can that be true? Is the gauge that tells them how much it's normal to eat broken? Someone replies to that question, I'm obese at 190 pounds. I average less than 1,500 calories a day. The only sweets being a small serving of dessert after dinner. My doctor told me 1,200 to 1,600 for safe weight loss. My meals are homemade. I use low-fat meat. I use lots of veggies. I do all the stuff people of regular weight do. My metabolism is just messed up between stress, having worked overnights for the past forever, and a side effect of my birth control being weight gain. I am burning an average of 600 calories just going about my daily routine on low-activity days, when I bother to count things. Admittedly, I'm finally starting to lose a couple pounds, but it's not due to exercise or eating habits changing. It's because I left night shift and switched to a less stressful job. Not all weight issues are caused by shoving food in your mouth or being lazy, and honestly, not eating enough can cause more issues as it slows your metabolism down worse as your body is going into starvation mode. Okra Garden replies, it brings to mind that study that found that obese people underestimate how much they eat by an average of 40%. People of healthy weight underestimate by about half that, or 20%. This person probably eats well over 2,000 calories a day. Copper Throne. Probably overestimating calories burned, too. The post even says they burn around 600 calories a day through normal routine. Like, is she counting calories getting up from the couch to go to the bathroom? That's not how that works. Vampirotethus brings us. Trying to love a fuller body is so hard. It's hard because we live in a society that doesn't cater to fuller bodies. Clothes aren't made for fuller bodies. Seats aren't made for fuller bodies. I'm not fat because I eat too much. I'm fat because I don't manage to eat enough, and it makes my body go into starvation mode, so I keep on all the fat in preparation for a famine. My body isn't aware that we actually have food in the house. I'm fat, but starting to love myself, even if I can't find clothes my size. Foro Toro replies, trying to love a fuller body is so hard because of the limited mobility, aches and pains, weight-related illnesses, and subsequent medications, etc. I'm fat because I don't properly manage my calorie consumption or accurately account for all the snacks and liquid calories I consume day to day. I'm fat, but I'm going to continue getting fatter because I moved into F.A. La La Land. Own Scheme brings us, before and after photos are not okay. Not even if you think it's inspiring, not even if you're proud of your progress, not even if you include a disclaimer saying that the real change was mental, not even in a cutesy graphic, not even if you have a big account and get lots of comments, not even if only certain parts of your body are shown, not even if you state you were just as unwell in all the photos, not even if no one is holding you accountable, not even if you personally aren't triggered by them, not even if they display a journey rather than just 2 points in time. In no circumstances does seeing your underweight body help anyone. It encourages comparison and breeds feelings of invalidity in your vulnerable followers, the majority of whom have never been underweight in the way you're depicting, because most people with EDs are never underweight. If you agree that body-based transformation or I have an ED and all these photos posts are potentially damaging, please don't support them. Don't like, don't comment, unfollow, hold people accountable if you have the capacity to, kindly. If you aren't able to engage with people when they're upset by their posts, then please don't post in the first place. That's okay too. There's a responsibility which comes from putting content out there for vulnerable people to see. We have to do better for the people who go unseen and untreated, the ones who aren't underweight or visibly unwell, the people who need advocacy the most and yet don't see themselves represented in any of these pictures. And if I was ever to post something which didn't sit right with you, or the tone is wrong, please tell me. I would rather delete content and keep the space as comfortable for everyone, even if I don't understand or disagree with you. Wow, what an incredibly dumb thing to say, especially the last part. I find that their post offends me. Please delete it. That's all I have to say. And now this post that they're saying that other people aren't allowed to post stuff is gone. So, bye-bye. Perfect Difficulty brings us examples of absolutely tragic customer service. This is a brand that is inclusive only on social media. Please note. May I know your size? Extra, extra, extra large. Sure, let me check and get back. We can dispatch it by the 4th or 5th of August. There will be 20% extra charges for the size customization. Why 20% extra? Do you also charge 20% extra for extra small size? That's strange. Up to the extra large size, we don't charge anything for the size customization. But above extra large size, the fabric and other stuff has also been increased. Naked Lobster, do you also charge 20% extra for the extra small size? In a similar way that we don't charge extra for the extra large, no. However, we do not carry extra, extra, extra small due to the burden on the manufacturing process. That would light up their world. Seldom Seen Me also replies, exactly this. Very short people also have to pay if they want their trousers or sleeves shortened. Upside down backward, even tall people have to choose between a circus tent or our wrist cuffs getting stuck halfway up our forearms every time we reach, unless we spend money on better brand or customization. Ooh rah 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 brings us. Just a reminder that sharing before and after photo videos where there's weight loss is harmful. When a failed fat person, also known as a fat person who is now thin, creates content that reinforces anti-fatness and negatively impacts everyone around them, especially their fat friends and community. Formerly fat people often fall into the fat phobia that has been pushed onto them by suggesting that their former fat self is no longer with them now that they are thin. Power is a heck of a thing. When people gain access to power that they never had before, also known as thin privilege, they begin to enact harm they once felt onto others as an act of power difference. If they poop on their former fat self, then they can show that they are no longer tied or linked to fatness. Some formerly fat people simply do it out of resentment that their weight loss did not give them everything they thought it would, i.e. complete happiness with their body. Here's a general reminder for all of us. How you talk about your body in front of others, online and in public, impacts the people who intentionally and unintentionally hear you. The excuse of, that's just how I feel about my own body, doesn't stop the hurt from happening. If you want to talk about your negative body feelings, ask your permission first and understand your positionality. Hot tip, don't post before and after content, period. But since I can't control people's actions, don't do it unless you're ready for the impact it will have on the people who will see it. Think about the language you use and the impact it will have and what you're trying to do by sharing these things with others. What's your goal? An acronist replies, you just know this one was mad about Adele losing weight. Beyonce or Rebel Wilson. Mrs. Beaver brings us, health issues that are wrongly associated to higher weight plus-size people actually occur at higher numbers in lower weight average straight-sized people globally. In Japan, which Western countries with a limited fat-phobic understanding of health view as healthy, type 2 diabetes occurs at a higher rate when the population is generally genetically lower weights. I don't think that sentence means what they think it means. It's true that people with an Asian descent are more sensitive and start to become obese at lower weights and more prone to diabetes. Yes. That has nothing to do with fat phobia. It's reported that people who eat fresh foods from the mountain and exercise every day still passed away from cancers and other health issues before the age of 80. Lesson: it's imperative to stop assuming the health of higher weight people based on how we look. It is a well-documented scientific fact that weight and health are mainly genetic. Weight is not an issue that needs a solution. Health does not define worth, and we have less control over health than we have been led to believe. Psychological stress, i.e. anti-fat bias in society, is one of the biggest health risks to all people. People on Earth are supposed to be diverse in weight and size. It is in fact beneficial for health to understand this. Ms. Beaver replies, I was curious about the life expectancy of Japan, so I googled it. As of 2019, it's around 84 years. Versus 79 for the US. In fact, Japan is the second highest life expectancy after Hong Kong in the world. Kangaroo. I googled diabetes in Japan and this was one of the first articles. Japanese Americans have experienced a higher prevalence of type 2 diabetes than in Japan. Curious how your genetics change when you cross the border. Dean Venture brings us, I lost weight on my last diet, so that's proof it worked. Me, so you're done dieting then? Well, I really craved food all the time, had no energy and felt moody. Then I lost my willpower and eventually gained it back. Me, so it didn't really work then? Jewish Space Medbeds replies, meanwhile, back in reality. Them, so you're done dieting then? Me, if you mean returning to eating crap, obviously not, since that's how I got fat in the first place. I'll keep eating healthy and move into weight maintenance now, and maybe build some nice muscle mass. I've got a lot more energy, and I'm so much more mobile now, so that'll be so much easier. Them, so it didn't really work then? Me, side-eye, are you deaf or something? Puking Pablos brings us today's episode of Trauma Olympics. Thin disabled people, especially white thin disabled people, need to recognize that people think I'm faking because I'm thin, pretty, and young doesn't negate the fact that fat people are not only assumed to be faking, but are assumed to have brought our faked disabilities on ourselves due to our laziness as evidenced by our fatness. If you are thin, abled, or disabled, I'd like you to take a moment to think about that. How many fat people don't use their mobility aids because of the violence face for existing in public and becoming essentially housebound? How many people lose organs and limbs because doctors tell them to lose weight rather than running tests they would run on a thin person? And as a result, how many die of medical neglect? About how many fat people are violently restrained or killed because their fat bodies are seen as a threat during meltdowns or mental health crises? The intersection of fatness and disability is deadly. Thin people face ableism, yes, but your experiences of disability are far from universal. Five-legged goat. Does this person actually think there's a wave of violence against fat people in public? Or are they one of those people who think simply disagreeing with them equates to violence? 21C Delta. Right, and losing limbs because doctors tell you to lose weight. Isn't that a symptom of diabetes that could be mitigated by weight loss? Own Scheme brings us, if the program you're checking out has any goal or intention of changing your body, it's probably a diet. Calcaneus replies, Funny use of the word program. Strength training programs are usually called, well, programs, and their intent is indeed to change your body, but they're not diets. Actually, they usually kind of are, but they're not diets to lose weight. Senior discount keto ads. Marathoners enter programs to change their bodies so their muscles, heart, and lungs are up to the task. Not a diet either. Then again, there's usually a diet portion to those too. Different P writes, notice how they never mention the $278 billion that the fast food industry earns per year? Making a killing on selling a product that kills isn't as important as Weight Watchers existing, I guess. The staggering truth is that the diet industry is a $60 billion per year industry with a 95% failure rate. Let that sink in. They are making a killing on selling a product that has zero evidence of being effective in the long term. Jewish Space Medbeds replies, I don't care about how much money the diet industry makes. Do you know why? I know it will be a shock to you, but hear me out. It's possible to lose weight without giving a single dime to companies that sell meal plans, apps, coaching, shakes, and diet food or gym memberships. You can even save money while doing it. What's this magic diet, you ask? It's a totally revolutionary concept called cook your own food and eat less of it. Mind-blowing, I know. Maybe I should write a book about it or something. There's also another really popular diet called skipping breakfast. I know it sounds really complicated, but I assure you it only requires a PhD in mathematics to understand this skipping breakfast concept. Ms. Beaver brings us, it's easier for fat-phobic people to believe that all fat people eat chips and candy all day and never exercise because believing otherwise means their moral high ground of being thin, hating themselves for being fat, is founded on nothing. OCR Amazon replies, what we can all plainly see about fat people is that they regularly consume more calories than they need. Side note, to gain 1 pound a year, you only need to eat 10 calories more per day than your body burns. Anyway, that's it, but that's significant. Nobody is fooled by the I eat 1,200 calories a day of unprocessed vegan food and exercise 2 hours a day at a high intensity and I'm still 400 pounds. But there are fat people who exercise regularly, don't eat candy and chips, but just eat too much. Not all day, but too much long term. So yeah, we can tell things about fat folks just by looking at them, despite this person's protests. Alfaba brings us, have you lost weight? You look so good in your recent videos. Love you. The person replies, hey there, thank you for the positive affirmation. I don't want to speak to the subject too much, but I believe in transparency. Yes, I have lost weight, and I have done so intentionally. I really wish to disclose this for honesty. I do not want to go into the why of it all, but I just want you to know that I am mentally safe, happy, and physically well. This is not a weight loss account, and won't be, but honesty is important to me. I am appreciative that you complimented me, but I do know that a lot of people are sensitive to people's awareness of their weight, and rightfully so. We get into all kinds of conversations about value and worth and thinking that bodies that look like our old body are less worthy, etc. There were things that I found compromising to what I considered essential life activities because of my size, and I decided I'd rather potentially make people mad at me on the internet than cry every time I try to see a theater production. Wait a minute. I was recently in New York and I went to some plays, and the seats there are not tiny. They're not like airplane seat sized. They're actually reasonable. So if you're having a hard time fitting into those, you've got some issues. Anyway, I will not provide weight loss tips. Advocate for weight loss is a solution for everyone. We're all different. I don't give tips or tricks, and those are boring conversations to me anyway. Love you. Uninhabited Isle replies, good for her, but imagine having to make such a lengthy, hand-holdy disclaimer just to confirm you lost weight. Ms. Beaver brings us an article that says, obesity was long considered a personal failing. Science shows it's not. Agus Warren replies, the thing is, it's both a personal responsibility and a consequence of larger systemic issues depending on the context. If you're a policymaker, then you should absolutely treat it as a systemic issue. If you're talking about yourself, it's a matter of personal responsibility. Treating it as a systemic issue in a personal context is entirely unhelpful and possibly harmful, as it can make people give up trying. I see, so it's kind of like quantum mechanics. Depending on how you look at it, it's either a personal problem or a systemic problem. but it's really both things at the same time. The wave-particle duality of weight loss. World's best lasagna brings us. Do you know the percentage of people who maintain long-term weight loss is 0.001%, with 72% of this group gaining back weight by year 5 after initial weight loss, and the women of the group only maintained this weight loss for up to 5 years because they averaged eating 1,306 calories a day and performed moderate to high-intensity exercise 60 to 90 minutes daily. Sounds more like maintaining an eating disorder to me. Hard pass. But this is what culture holds on to at the thought of one day I'll be part of the 0.0001% elite group. You do not have to keep up these unrealistic expectations. It's not your fault. You didn't fail. There's nothing wrong with your willpower. Your body is doing its job to keep you alive and healthy. Something I won't regret replies. These numbers are from an old study of participants in the National Weight Control Registry. They were based on self-reported intake. A later study that used gold standard objective measures of energy expenditure showed that your typical National Weight Control Registry participant consumes around 2,500 calories a day and walked about 4,000 steps a day more than matched obese controls, matched to their pre-weight loss BMI, i.e., people are bad at tracking calories. Don't talk to me brings us some sanity. Real talk, I lost a bunch of weight, about 60 pounds, and I've gained about 40 pounds back. I'm depressed. I've had depression and anxiety for a long time. I was on my meds and doing so much better, working out and eating healthier. I've fooled myself and stopped my meds. I haven't been on them, and I'm a terrible eater when I'm depressed. I don't want to work out because I'm constantly exhausted. I'm now looking more down on myself because all my hard work went down the drain. I feel defeated at times. Obesity is a chronic disease, and if anyone thinks otherwise, can delete me from here. It's a struggle every day to pick the right option, to go work out, to lose the weight, and to keep it off. Watching the scale and pant sizes jump all the time is exhausting. I'm going to start my meds again and get into a healthy mindset again and work on myself, but I'm exhausted. I'm disgusted with myself, but I must remind myself I've done this before. I will do it again. Starting a healthier me to get back on track for myself and blank. I have to better myself and stop being selfish because I have my baby that I want to spend as many years as possible with. Brought to us by Am I the Jerk Bad Cousin? Am I the jerk for not inviting my obese cousin on the family hike? In recent years, I've made more of an effort to be close with my family. My family all hates my mother and distance themselves from her. But now that I'm an adult, I can facilitate my own relationships. I'm very into hiking, and there's a certain mountain in our area I've wanted to hike. I invited one of my cousins, Sarah, because I know she loves outdoorsy stuff. Sarah agreed and suggested inviting one of her other cousins, Jeffrey, who also loves hiking apparently. I like Jeffrey, but I didn't know because we haven't spoken that much since we were kids. One person led to another, and now we have 8 people going on this hike. All are at least somewhat fit and in decent health. My uncle's wife suggested inviting my cousin Jessica because she doesn't get out much, and it would be good for her. I suggested we invite her to a different event, and suggested going to the beach next weekend. I stated that Jessica isn't in the best shape, and hiking this particular mountain might be hard for her because of her weight and health problems. Her knees and back often hurt. I didn't say this, but if something happened, none of us would be able to carry her back to a car, because she's around 300 pounds. Everyone agreed, but then my uncle's wife ran her mouth to Jessica, and now Jessica's feelings are hurt. I apologized to Jessica, but stood by why I didn't invite her, stating that she's not in good shape, and she probably wouldn't be able to complete the hike safely. I invited her to the beach next weekend instead, and she refused. She now won't talk to me anymore and is making posts on Facebook about how the world hates fat people. Am I the jerk for not inviting my cousin on a hike because of her weight and health? No. This is like not inviting someone to go see a Marvel movie with you when you know they hate Marvel movies. Why would they want to be invited? They would hate every moment of it. It's stupid to expect to be invited to it. What does that messin posted in Am I the Jerk? Am I the jerk for not baking for my super morbidly obese younger sister, 18, on her birthday? I love cooking and baking. I learned how to do so from my mom. That was our way of bonding. My mom was an excellent baker and used to make pastries and desserts for the family all the time. Late last year, she passed away from complications related to her obesity. She was only 57. I'm the only one who picked up my mother's skills in the kitchen, so I do the majority of cooking when I get home from school. When I'm not there, my dad usually gets my sister's fast food or microwavable dinners since he never learned how to cook. So my sister's birthday is coming up, and I'm able to go home. This is the first birthday without my mom, and I'm expected to make my sister's favorite cake. The only issue with this is that I feel very uncomfortable doing this for her. My sister is turning 19 and she's 370 pounds. Objectively speaking, unless she was 6'3" and some type of powerlifter, she would be considered unhealthy. Ever since our mom passed, I've been very worried for her health and have tried to get her to eat healthier. According to my dad, she has been to the doctor. They told her that she needs to be more conscious of her diet and exercise, and nothing has changed since no one wants to eat healthy. So I decided to stop contributing to this. I don't cook for my family anymore unless they want something healthy, which is never. I guess she expected me to be a little nicer during her birthday, because she called me and told me what cake she wants, and I told her I wasn't making her one. She got mad at me and told me I was being selfish and she deserved to have some sweets on her birthday. I told her that she hasn't been making any changes in her diet and I'm not going to contribute to her eating herself to death. She called me selfish and hung up. I went home yesterday and my dad has been trying to convince me to make the cake fire for her. He also called me selfish and told me that a few slices of cake isn't going to hurt her any more than a single meal was. I told them no. I said I'd be willing to find a healthy dessert recipe and make that for them. But they didn't want that. So now everyone hates me when I just care about her health. Am I the jerk? No. And honestly, your dad could learn to make cake if he really wanted to. It's not hard. He knows the internet exists, right? Restless Princess posted in Am I the Jerk? Am I the jerk for telling my family member that I don't want to watch her die from being morbidly obese? For my entire life, my aunt, 62, has been morbidly obese. Obviously, this has caused massive health concerns for her that are only getting worse as she ages. Ever since COVID lockdowns moved her office online, she only leaves the house for doctor's appointments. She doesn't even step outside for fresh air. The people who have been helping her around the house have been myself and her cousin, who drives about an hour and a half to her home to clean it, take out her garbage, do her laundry, and wash her dishes multiple times a week. She cannot do these things on her own. We also get her groceries, her prescriptions, and anything else she needs whenever she needs it. From as young as 8 years old, I was going into stores, malls, and banks for her. Before her cousin moved to our state, it was just me, and her house was a complete hoarding disaster before we cleaned it out for her. She's a wonderful woman with an amazing heart and a contagious laugh, but she takes everything around her for granted, including me. I've tried multiple times throughout the past to gently bring up the idea of weight loss surgery, because every single doctor she has been to has recommended it to her. I've tried to approach it lovingly and with care, because she is extremely sensitive about the topic, and I don't want to hurt her. Every time I spoke to her that way, she would just be in complete denial. She denies that her weight is any sort of problem, and that the doctors are all wrong because they, in her words, just don't like seeing fat people. She does not listen. Each time she denies that there's a problem, she also denies that it has had any effect on me as well. One day, after a recent fall of hers that led to an extended hospital stay, I sat her down and confronted her about it, and this time I wasn't as nice as I had been before. I told her it hurts me to see her living this way at her age, and that weight loss surgery is her only option at life at this point, because she is no longer mobile. The entire time I spoke to her, she just sat in silence crying. She wouldn't even acknowledge what I was saying. I asked if she missed going out and doing things with people or for herself. She says, "You don't know how much you're hurting me right now." I don't even know what else to say, so I just said, "I'm sorry, I don't want to keep watching you die. I feel so awful for saying what I did, but somehow I feel like it was the only way to get through the thick layer of denial in her brain." At the end of the conversation, she said, "I'm not getting surgery and I don't ever want to hear about this again." I've barely spoken to her since. The only time I went to see her consisted of her just crying once again and telling me how much I hurt her. Whenever I bring up my side of the story or what I think, she just stays silent and ignores me as she cries. I just want her to be healthy and happy, but I don't think I can just simply never mention this to her again. I don't want to be an enabler. No, you're not a jerk, and I think the only thing that will get through to them is if they have to deal with some of the stuff themselves, like washing their own dishes. You guys have just made it too easy for them to do absolutely nothing. Shared Trash account asks, "Am I the jerk for refusing to contribute to my cousin's children obesity problem?" My cousin and his soon-to-be ex-wife have 4 children together, and she has a 5th new baby that she had in an affair, causing their divorce. Since their divorce, she has been a nightmare, trying anything to get my cousin's kids removed from his custody, fully, instead of the 50-50 they agreed on. I watched the kids, 10, 8, 5, and 2, on his custody days, as they agreed they would work out their own child care, and since the separation, her parents blame my cousin entirely and refuse to watch their grandkids on his days for him. I said I would, since it's only 90 minutes after school, and the 2-year-old all day on his days. I'm doing this for free because he needs help until he can afford child care for them. All these children are morbidly obese because the mother would, and has admitted openly, feed them to shut them up, and lets them eat junk food constantly. The 10-year-old weighs 185, the 8-year-old 125, the 5-year-old 95, and even the 2-year-old is 48. None of them are tall for their ages. They get dropped off minutes after I get home from picking up my own kids who go to the same school and are similar ages. The school meal snack schedule is the same for every grade in their building, minus the time of lunch, which is only 20 to 30 minutes different because half the grades eat in their classrooms because of COVID. They get a snack at school 30 minutes before the end of the day, which means they eat something 60 minutes before getting dropped off with me. My cousin has been talking about their overeating and weight problems with their doctor for a year now. I told him I'd be sure to keep any snacks I give them, at least somewhat healthy, and a reasonable portion. The kids told their mom I don't feed them when they're in my care, because they don't like the rules their dad and I discussed about their eating. Their mom confronted me directly and demanded I feed her kids more or she would turn me in to CPS for child abuse. I calmly told her what I feed my kids while at my house is none of her business as long as it won't hurt them and was approved by their dad. I also reminded her I only have them for an hour and a half a day and I don't need to feed them at all because they get a snack less than 3 hours before they're picked up from me anyway. She said I was a jerk and she's calling CPS because if her kids say they're hungry, I should feed them. I told her I'm not feeding her kids every time they tell me they're hungry because they would never stop eating while they're here. They constantly ask for more snacks and food while here. When I explain to them I can't give them more, I tell them it's the rules set by their dad, for if I give them snacks, which he said I didn't need to give them snacks to eat dinner within an hour of pickup. Does maintaining a healthy snack schedule, as discussed with their father, while in my care for their kids make me a jerk? It's quite simply, no. Their mother has some serious issues. Comfortable Yak asks, am I the jerk for telling my niece she has control over whether or not she becomes obese? My brother, Tom, has been obese since his early 20s. He drinks 1 to 2 sodas with every meal. He has a dessert with every meal. He never eats vegetables. He drinks beer every week. He eats a lot of pasta, carbs, breads. I'm not hating on my brother, but he's obese due to his eating habits. Tom has been with his wife Amber since college. They both eat the same. They have a daughter together, Mary. The past 3 years, Mary has gained weight. She started to eat like her parents, 1 to 2 sodas per meal, desserts 2 to 3 times a day, no veg, lots of cheese, pasta, bread, red meat. She may be approaching the obese category. It pained me to see Mary suffer. She stopped riding her bike a few years ago. She doesn't participate in any outdoor activities anymore. She gets winded going up the stairs. She's 16. I haven't said anything until now because I don't want to fat shame her. I still love her regardless, but I can't help but worry about her health and happiness. Not to mention she has gotten a lot of cavities over the past several years because of sugar. Last weekend I went over to Tom and Amber's house to have lunch outside. At one point Mary's parents went inside, so my niece and I got to hang out alone for a little while. She seemed sad and I asked her what was up. She told me that she had mentioned wanting to lose weight to her parents. They basically told her that weight was all genetics and she had no control over her weight, and she'll eventually be the same size as they are. My niece brought me into that conversation saying, well, OP is your sister. She's not fat. I could have gotten those genes too. I didn't really know the best way to talk to her about it, and I didn't want her to think what her parents said was true. So I told her that there is a healthy way to control her weight if she's not happy with it. I asked how much soda dessert she usually eats. I told her one thing that would help was to drink water with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and only have soda as a treat. I also told her to try only having a dessert 2 to 3 times a week, instead of with every meal. I told her that over time reducing her intake of things like soda and sugary snacks will slowly lead to weight loss. I said that would help with cavities too, as soda and sugar are bad for your teeth. I figured that was safe enough advice, that I wasn't fat shaming her, and that it would be pretty much okay to tell anyone to cut back on soda and store-bought treats with every meal. Tom and sister-in-law are angry at me. They told me I've given her unrealistic standards to live by, and that I've now changed their daughter because apparently she has taken my advice and is asking for water instead of soda now, and won't eat the dessert snacks they buy. Is this person the jerk? No, especially since the daughter is, as I recall, 16 years old. That's old enough to make some decisions at least on their own. And skipping dessert and soda at meals is not an eating disorder. So I don't see how they did anything wrong. Another video comes to an end. Thank you to everybody who made it this far. Special thanks go to Emmett McNally, Rig, Cupcaker Death, MMC, Story, Megtran2000, Cly, That One Guy, Laura Christine, Maria P, Average Loser, Wolf Child Rusk, and Just a Girl. I appreciate everybody who supports me. It really encourages me to continue making these videos. If you'd like to become a member, there should be a link in the video description.